Picture yourself standing in Manchester in the year 1705. The morning air is cool and damp, characteristic of northwest England. You walk through narrow, winding streets of timber-framed houses, their upper stories jutting out over the ground level, creating shadows that make the streets feel intimate and confined. The population is merely 10,000 people. Everyone knows each other, or at least knows of each other. This is a small market town, not a metropolis. The marketplace is buzzing with activity. Merchants in their three-piece suits, velvet coats down to their knees, ornate waistcoats embroidered with silk threads, and breeches fastened below the knee with decorative buckles, haggle over prices. Their wealth is displayed ostentatiously through their clothing. Fine fabrics, intricate embroidery, and accessories like walking sticks and tricorn hats. A gentleman's worth could be measured by the quality of his attire. The women, draped in flowing mantuas with panniers, frame structures that created enormous width at the sides, move carefully through the muddy streets. Their corsets are so restrictive that they can barely bend, let alone work. A young woman of quality wears pale silk or cotton, printed with delicate floral patterns. Fashionable colors are pastels, soft pinks, pale greens, sky blues. Her necklace is decorated with ribbons and lace, her hair elaborately curled and powdered. The distinction between the sexes in clothing is absolute. Women's dress announces that they do not labor with their hands. The economic foundation of Manchester is textile production, but not cotton. Wool and linen dominate. The production system is entirely artisanal. Merchants contract independent craftsmen to spin thread by hand using wheels operated for hours each day. Then others weave this thread into cloth, and finally other specialists dye and finish the textiles. This is the guild system inherited from the medieval world. Each artisan controls their own work, sets their own pace, and takes pride in their craft. A weaver is not merely a worker, he is a skilled professional with years of training behind him. Walk through the shambles, the area where butchers worked, and you see the harsh reality of pre-industrial commerce. Animals are slaughtered in public view. Blood runs through the streets. The smell is overwhelming. Yet this is where commerce happens, direct, visceral, and connected to real production. The names of streets reflect what happens there. The street of butchers, the street of millers, the street of coopers. Each location specializes in its trade. The old Tudor buildings that still stand, like the Wellington Inn, built in 1552, represent the physical permanence of medieval Manchester. These structures have survived for over 150 years and will survive centuries more. They are built to last, constructed with massive timber frames and solid stone. They house both the family living quarters and the business below, seamlessly integrating private life with economic activity. A merchant might live above his shop, his children playing in the back room while he conducts business in front. The social world is highly stratified but relatively stable. At the top are the merchant families, who control trade and accumulate wealth slowly through careful business practices and advantageous marriages. Below them are the skilled artisans, the weavers, dyers, spinners, who have some security through their guild membership. Below them are the laborers and apprentices. And at the bottom are the poor, the migrant workers, the beggars, but everyone has a clear place in the social order. Religion structures daily life absolutely. The parish church is not merely a place of worship, it is the community center. Every person attends Sunday Mass. Social status is displayed through where you sit in the church. The wealthy have their pews, the poor stand at the back. The church controls moral behavior, enforces social norms, and provides whatever charity exists for the truly destitute. The rhythm of the year follows religious festivals, Christmas, Easter, Whitsunday. These are the days when markets close, when people gather, when community identity is reaffirmed. Entertainment is limited. There are taverns where men gather to drink ale and discuss business or politics. There are fairs held seasonally when merchants from other towns come to trade. There is gossip and social visiting, but there are no theatres, no public concerts, no newspapers. Information travels slowly, through conversation, through occasional letters, through the rare printed broadsheet. The world beyond Manchester is distant and mysterious. Then comes 1789. The world changes forever in a single moment when Manchester receives its first steam engine designed for textile manufacturing. It is a revolutionary machine, noisy, powerful, requiring constant fuel of coal and water. This single invention begins the transformation that will turn a sleepy market town into the industrial capital of the world. Within decades, Manchester's population explodes, 10,000 in 1700, 70,000 by 1800, 180,000 by 1830, eventually reaching 2.3 million by 1911. The steam engine doesn't just produce textiles faster, it destroys the entire social structure built on artisanal control. Factories concentrate production. Individual craftsmen with their home workshops are pushed out of business, unable to compete with mechanized production. The skilled weaver, once a respected professional with years of training, becomes a factory worker, earning a fraction of his former income. Worse, his replacements are women and children, who can operate the machines just as well and cost far less to employ. The artisans recognize what is happening. They see their craft becoming obsolete, their income disappearing, their independence vanishing. Between 1811 and 1816, they fight back in what becomes known as the Luddite Rebellion. Masked workers invade factories at night and smash the machines that are destroying their livelihoods. The government responds with brutal force. Soldiers are stationed throughout Lancashire. Luddites are captured, tried, and executed. The rebellion is crushed, and with it dies the old artisanal world forever. Walk through Manchester's streets in 1800, and you encounter a completely different world. The old timber-framed medieval houses are being bulldozed or hidden behind new industrial structures. Steam billows from thousands of chimneys, turning the sky grey. The air carries an acrid smell of coal and chemicals. Crowds of desperate people press through the streets, migrants from rural areas displaced by agricultural changes, forced to sell their labor to survive. Where there were 10,000 souls in 1700, there are now 70,000, and they are crammed into inadequate housing with minimal sanitation. The clothing has changed too. The ornate, colorful world of 1700s fashion is giving way to darker, more practical garments. Factory workers, both men and women, wear simpler clothes, dark cotton, sturdy wool. The three-piece suit, once a mark of the merchant elite, becomes more accessible to the emerging middle class. The pannier-wearing women of 1700 would be horrified at the reduced ornamentation and simpler silhouettes of 1810s fashion. Yet even this simpler clothing requires more textile production than ever before, which is precisely why Manchester's factories cannot stop expanding. The wealth generated is staggering, but it flows to factory owners and merchants, not to workers. A Manchester cotton factory owner can accumulate wealth that would have taken a medieval merchant generations to achieve. Yet his workers, many of them children as young as 6 years old, labor 12 to 16 hours daily with no safety protections, no insurance, no guaranteed days off. A child's hand caught in machinery results in amputation and unemployment, not compensation. Women work the same long hours while managing households and raising children. The human cost is immense. The physical landscape transforms radically. In 1761, the Duke of Bridgewater had built the Bridgewater Canal, an engineering marvel that connected Manchester to Liverpool and created the template for modern canal networks across Britain. This canal didn't create the Industrial Revolution, but it made Manchester's growth possible by allowing cheap transport of coal and raw materials. In 1830, the first passenger railway in the world connects Manchester to Liverpool, permanently binding the two cities together and establishing Manchester as the epicenter of new transportation technology. The railway stretches 15 kilometers and opens on September 15, 1830. The world will never be the same. The old Wellington Inn, built in 1552, still stands amid this transformation, one of the last remaining Tudor structures in the city. It represents the Manchester that was, medieval, intimate, human-scaled. Around it rise massive red brick factory buildings, warehouses, and tenement housing packed with workers and their families. The inn has survived wars, fires, and now the Industrial Revolution itself. It serves ale to factory workers who once worked as skilled artisans. The contrast is stark. Perhaps most significantly, Manchester becomes a center of political and intellectual ferment. Two German philosophers, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, come to Manchester to study industrial conditions firsthand. They work together in Chetham's library, sitting at the same desk, reading and debating. At that very desk, in Manchester, they write ideas that will reshape world politics. The Communist Manifesto emerges from observations of Manchester's brutal capitalism. When Marx writes about the alienation of labor, workers separated from control over their work, producing goods they do not own for wages barely sufficient to survive, he is describing exactly what he has witnessed in Manchester's factories. Engels publishes his observations in a book titled The Condition of the Working Class in England. He documents the misery, the disease, the child labor, the broken families. He calculates the profit margins and reveals how factory owners grow wealthy from the surplus value extracted from workers' labor. These are not abstract theories. They are descriptions of life on Manchester's streets. A child working 16 hours daily in a cotton mill, covered in lint and filth, earning pennies while the factory owner profits magnificently. This is the reality that drives the intellectual revolution happening in Manchester. The city also attracts local scientists and inventors. John Dalton, a chemist from nearby develops the atomic theory. James Joule, experimenting with electricity and heat, makes discoveries about energy that will revolutionize physics. The University of Manchester, founded later in the 19th century, will eventually produce 25 Nobel Prize winners. Manchester is not just an industrial city. It is also a center of scientific advancement, where the practical problems of industry inspire theoretical breakthroughs. There is a famous saying about Manchester: what Manchester does today, the rest of the world does tomorrow. This captures something profound. Manchester wasn't just a city that industrialized first. It was the experiment that showed capitalism what was possible. The profits generated, the technologies developed, the class struggles that erupted, the environmental devastation that resulted. Manchester provided the template that would be copied globally. Every industrial city that follows, from Lowell, Massachusetts to Manchester, Japan to Berlin, learns from Manchester's example. By 1800, Manchester had become the world's first industrial city, grimy, crowded, polluted, dangerous, yet producing more wealth than any city on earth. The air is thick with pollution. People suffer from respiratory diseases they don't understand. The water is contaminated with industrial waste and human sewage. Disease spreads rapidly through the crowded neighborhoods. Yet still they come, the desperate, the ambitious, the hopeless, drawn by the possibility of wages, however meager. The artisan in his Tudor cottage, controlling his own labor and pace, has been replaced by the factory worker, a new creature in human history, who owns nothing, controls nothing, and survives by selling their labor hour by hour to whoever will pay them the least. The rhythm of work is no longer set by daylight or seasons, but by the relentless demands of the machines. The machines never tire, never rest, never negotiate. They set the pace, and humans must match it or be replaced. This is the story of Manchester 1700 to 1800, from medieval market town to industrial dystopia, from artisanal pride to industrial alienation, from a world where a skilled worker could be prosperous and respected to a world where 6-year-old children lose their fingers in machines and the factory owner profits from their accident. It's a story of extraordinary progress in technology and production capacity, coupled with extraordinary suffering among those who powered that progress. Manchester created modern civilization, the factories, the wealth, the technology. But the cost paid by the workers was devastating. The transformation was neither inevitable nor accidental. It resulted from specific decisions made by specific people. Merchants who chose to invest in machines, politicians who chose to protect factory owners and crush worker resistance, engineers who chose to build machines that could eliminate skilled workers. Each decision made sense from the perspective of profit maximization, and collectively they created a new world. By the end of the year 1800, two different Manchesters existed simultaneously. The Manchester of the wealthy factory owners, growing richer each year, and the Manchester of the workers, increasingly desperate, increasingly radicalized, increasingly organized in their resistance. This contradiction would drive social movements, inspire revolutions, and shape the politics of the entire modern world. Manchester, the birthplace of industrial capitalism, would also become the birthplace of the movements against it. The labor movement, the socialist movement, the communist movement, all of these were forged in the fires of Manchester's mills. The choice facing humanity had become clear. This is what industrial capitalism produces: staggering wealth alongside staggering poverty, technological marvels alongside human misery. What Manchester had become was not destiny, but choice. And the entire world would have to decide whether to follow Manchester's path or find another way forward.